Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! In the fleeting embrace of the Arctic summer, where daylight stretched its reach, 4 weary scholars gathered, their youthful energies ignited within the dimly lit dormitory. Vodka, their preferred elixir, frosted the air with its crisp scent. As laughter's echo traversed the confines, all attention gravitated towards a central haven of trickery and chance. At the gaming sanctum, a compact table, a mountain of a man in red flannel, triumphantly declared,
"Fate's full bounty graces me this night."
His cards, a testament to skilled deception, revealed a full house. Eyebrows danced as sighs of defeat reverberated. Glasses, perched at the bridge of a thin man's nose, witnessed their owner's surrender. His cards relinquished, facing the dense wooden surface.
"That's 3 hands in a row, Mark. You've got to be cheating." "Don't be a sore loser, Pete,"
Mark laughed.
"It's called skill."
In the corner, hunched over his rapidly diminishing pile of chips, sat Danny Marshall, running a nervous hand through his short blonde hair. His gray t-shirt was rumpled from hours of sitting, and his blue jeans were worn at the knees. He wasn't a gambler by nature, but somehow his roommates had convinced him to join their weekly poker night, and now he was paying the price.
"All in,"
Danny declared, pushing his final chips forward. It was a desperate move, but he was tired of losing slowly.
"Bold strategy,"
observed the 4th player, Raj, with an amused smile.
"But are you sure you want to risk the bet?"
The bet. That was what had turned their friendly game into something more high stakes. Earlier in the evening, they had all agreed, whoever lost the most would have to attend the upcoming spring formal in a dress. It had seemed funny at the time, a joke that wouldn't come to fruition because surely none of them would actually lose that badly. Yet here was Danny, about to risk it all on one hand. "I'm sure," Danny said, though his voice betrayed his uncertainty. His throat felt dry as he looked at his cards again. A pair of queens. Not terrible, but far from a sure thing. Mark looked at him with a predatory grin. "All right then, let's see what you've got." The cards were revealed. Danny's queens against Mark's 3 of a kind. A collective "ooh" rose from the group as Danny's face fell. He had lost. Completely and utterly lost.
Well, well, well,"
Mark said, clapping Danny on the shoulder.
"Looks like we've got ourselves a date for the formal. I'm thinking something in a pastel shade, maybe with some frills."
Danny's stomach churned as the others laughed. "Come on, guys. It was just a joke, right?"
"A bet's a bet, Danny boy,"
Raj said, clearly enjoying the situation.
"You've got to go through with it."
"But I don't even own a dress," Danny protested.
"That's the least of your worries,"
Pete chimed in.
"You're going to need the whole package. Hair, makeup, shoes, the works."
Danny buried his face in his hands. How had a casual Friday night turned into this nightmare?
"Look,"
Mark said, his tone softening slightly.
"We're not complete monsters. We'll help you out. My sister knows a place downtown, some fancy boutique. They do custom fittings and everything. You'll be the belle of the ball." "The formal is in 2 weeks,"
Danny muttered.
"Maybe everyone will forget by then." "Not a chance,"
Raj grinned, already pulling out his phone.
"In fact, I'm setting a reminder right now. Dress fitting for Danny, Tuesday at 3 p.m.
Danny groaned. There was no escape. A bet was a bet, and his friends weren't going to let him off the hook. The weekend passed in a blur of dread. By Tuesday afternoon, Danny found himself standing in front of an elegant storefront with a discreet sign reading Sophia's Boutique. The display window showcased mannequins draped in gorgeous fabrics, each outfit more refined than the last.
I can't believe I'm doing this,
Danny muttered to himself, his reflection in the glass showing a young man with nervous eyes, wearing a plain blue button-up shirt and khaki pants, an outfit he'd chosen specifically because it was as unremarkable as possible. Taking a deep breath, he pushed open the door, a small bell announcing his entrance. The interior was tastefully decorated, with soft lighting and plush carpeting. Racks of clothing lined the walls, and a few private dressing rooms were visible at the back.
Hello? Is anyone here?
Danny called out, his voice echoing in the quiet space. From behind a beaded curtain emerged an elderly woman with silver hair pulled back in an elegant bun. She wore a tape measure around her neck like a fashion statement, and her eyes sparkled with intelligence and warmth. "Welcome to Sophia's," she said, her accent hinting at Mediterranean origins. "I am Sophia. How may I help you today?" Danny felt his cheeks burn with embarrassment. I'm here for a fitting. My name is Danny." Recognition dawned on Sophia's face.
"Ah, yes. Your friend called ahead. The young man planning a special outfit for the formal?" "That's one way of putting it," Danny mumbled. "Look, I lost a bet, and now I have to wear a dress to this thing, and I'm really not comfortable with this whole situation."
Instead of the judgment or mockery he expected, Sophia merely nodded, her expression professional and kind. "I see. Well, Danny, we all find ourselves in unexpected situations sometimes. While you are in my shop, you will be treated with the same respect and care as any of my clients." Her matter-of-fact demeanor eased some of Danny's tension. "Thank you. I really just want to get this over with as quickly as possible." "Fashion is never something to be rushed," Sophia replied, already reaching for her measuring tape.
"Now, let's see what we're working with. Stand up straight. Arms out to your sides, please."
For the next half hour, Sophia took measurements with practiced precision, occasionally making notes in a small, leather-bound book. She worked silently, her movements efficient and respectful. "You have good shoulders," she commented at one point. "Strong, but not too broad, and a nice narrow waist. Many women would envy your proportions." Danny wasn't sure how to respond to that. Was it a compliment? It felt like one, strangely enough. "Now for the dress itself," Sophia continued, putting away her measuring tape. "What did you have in mind?"
I hadn't really thought about it,"
Danny admitted. "Something simple? Maybe black? Something that won't draw too much attention?" Sophia clicked her tongue. "Black is too severe for you, and simple does not have to mean invisible." She walked over to a rack and began flipping through fabrics. "With your coloring, the blonde hair, the fair skin, you need something with depth, something that will make your eyes stand out." She pulled out a length of midnight blue satin that seemed to shimmer in the light. This is the color for you. A midnight blue satin gown with a sweetheart neckline. Not too revealing, but elegant. It will complement your frame perfectly." Danny was surprised by her enthusiasm. "You really think about this stuff a lot, huh?" Sophia smiled. "Fashion is not just about clothes, Danny. It's about how the clothes make you feel. Even if this began as a joke, there's no reason you can't hold your head high and look magnificent while fulfilling your bet." For some reason, Her words struck a chord with Danny. The idea of looking magnificent had never crossed his mind. He had only been thinking about minimizing his humiliation.
Okay,
He found himself saying. I trust your judgment. Excellent. Now we'll need to discuss shoes, accessories, and, of course, undergarments. A proper foundation is essential for any formal wear. Danny's eyes widened. Undergarments? I didn't think... Nothing too elaborate, Sophia assured him. But the right support will make all the difference in how the dress hangs on your body. By the end of the consultation, Danny's head was spinning with information about fabrics, hemlines, and something called a sweetheart neckline. Sophia had sketched a design that looked surprisingly elegant, not the frilly, ridiculous outfit his friends had threatened. I'll have the first version ready for a fitting in 3 days, Sophia informed him as she walked him to the door. And, Danny, perhaps when you come back, you might consider a different name. Just while you're here. Sometimes stepping into a new role can be easier with a new identity. Danny blinked, caught off guard by the suggestion. A different name? Just a thought, Sophia said with a gentle smile. See you on Friday. Walking back to campus, Danny found himself pondering Sophia's parting words. A different name. A new identity. It was strange, but there was something freeing about the idea, like putting on a costume for a play, becoming someone else for a little while. Friday arrived more quickly than Danny had anticipated. His classes seemed to blur together, and before he knew it, he was standing outside Sophia's boutique once again, his heart hammering in his chest. This time, Sophia greeted him with a warm smile. Welcome back. I have the preliminary version of your dress ready for fitting. In the private dressing room, Danny stared at the garment hanging on the hook. The midnight blue fabric caught the light, shifting and gleaming like a living thing. It's beautiful, he admitted, surprised by his own reaction. Beauty is meant to be worn, Sophia replied. Now, I'll step out while you change into the undergarments I've provided. Call me when you're ready for help with the dress. The undergarments were simpler than Danny had feared, smoothing shorts and a structured top that created subtle curves. As he slipped them on, he felt strangely disconnected from himself, as if he were watching someone else.
I'm ready,
he called, and Sophia returned to help him into the dress. The fabric was cool against his skin, the weight of it unfamiliar, but not unpleasant. Sophia worked efficiently, adjusting and pinning where necessary. Now look, she said, turning him toward the full-length mirror. Danny gasped. The person staring back at him was different. The dress hugged his waist and flared gently over his hips, creating a silhouette he'd never imagined for himself. The midnight blue made his skin glow and brought out flecks of gold in his hazel eyes. What do you think? Sophia asked, watching his reaction carefully. I don't know what to say, Danny whispered. It's not what I expected. And what did you expect? To look ridiculous. To look like a guy in a dress. Sophia smiled. But you don't. You look like someone wearing a beautiful gown. Someone who perhaps hasn't found her name yet. Her name. The words echoed in Danny's mind.
Felicity,
he said suddenly, the name rising unbidden to his lips.
I think, for now, I'd like to be called Felicity.
Felicity, Sophia repeated, nodding approvingly. It suits you.
Now, Felicity, let's finish this fitting. We still have adjustments to make.
Over the next week, Danny, or rather Felicity, within the safe confines of Sophia's boutique, returned for 2 more fittings. Each time, the transformation felt more complete, more real. Sophia added subtle details to the dress. Delicate beading along the neckline, a slight train that whispered against the floor. During the final fitting, just 3 days before the formal, Sophia brought out accessories. Long gloves in a matching midnight blue, elegant silver earrings, and a pair of silver heels that looked both beautiful and intimidating. "I can't walk in those," Felicity protested, eyeing the heels warily. "Everyone says that at first," Sophia replied. "But you'll learn. Come, practice with me." For an hour, Felicity walked back and forth across the boutique floor, learning to find balance in the unfamiliar shoes. By the end, she was moving with surprising grace, the initial awkwardness melting away. "There," Sophia said with satisfaction. "You see? Already you are becoming Felicity." It was true. With each visit, Danny felt less like he was putting on a costume and more like he was uncovering a hidden part of himself. Felicity was emerging, not just in the mirror, but in subtle shifts of posture, in the way her hands moved more expressively, in the softer cadence of her voice. The night of the formal arrived with a mix of dread and something else, a strange, fluttering anticipation. Danny's roommates arrived at his door, dressed in their rented tuxedos, their expressions a mix of mischief and curiosity. "Ready for your big debut?" Mark asked, a grin spreading across his face. "As ready as I'll ever be," Danny replied, gathering the garment bag that contained the midnight blue gown. "Where are you changing?" Pete asked. "You can't just walk across campus in that." "Sophia's meeting me at the hotel where the formal's being held," Danny explained. "She has a room reserved for final preparations." Raj raised an eyebrow. "Sounds like you and this Sophia have become pretty tight." Danny shrugged, not wanting to admit how much he had come to value Sophia's guidance and kindness. "She's professional, that's all." The 4 of them piled into Mark's car and drove to the Grand Windsor Hotel, where the college had rented the ballroom for the spring formal. Danny clutched the garment bag, his palms sweating against the plastic. "We'll see you inside," Mark said, as they dropped Danny off at the side entrance. "Can't wait for the grand entrance." The teasing was still there, but Danny noticed it lacked the edge it had had before. His friends seemed genuinely curious about how this experiment would turn out. Sophia was waiting in a small suite on the 2nd floor, her silver hair elegantly styled, wearing a simple black dress that spoke of timeless taste. "Ah, right on time," she said, taking the garment bag from Danny. "Let's begin." The transformation was more elaborate this time. Sophia had brought a makeup kit and spent nearly half an hour applying subtle enhancements. A touch of shadow to bring out Danny's eyes, a hint of color on his lips. She styled his blonde hair, which had grown a bit longer over the weeks, sweeping it to one side in a way that softened his features. "I brought these as well," Sophia said, holding up a pair of silicone inserts. "For a more feminine silhouette. Only if you want them, of course." Danny, no, Felicity now, hesitated only briefly before nodding. "Yes, I think that would help the dress fit better." Finally, the dress itself, sliding over her head in a whisper of satin, settling against her body like it had been made for her. Which, of course, it had. The gloves, the earrings, the silver heels. Each element added to the whole, until at last, Sophia stepped back. "Look," she said simply, gesturing to the mirror. Felicity turned and caught her breath. The woman in the mirror was beautiful. There was no other word for it. The midnight blue gown caught the light with every movement, the sweetheart neckline framing her collarbones perfectly. Her blonde hair shimmered under the hotel lights, and her eyes seemed larger, more expressive.
"Is that really me?"
Felicity whispered. Sophia smiled, a touch of pride in her expression.
"It has always been you, my dear. Just a part you hadn't met yet."
There was a knock at the door.
"Hey, Danny, you in there? The formal's starting, man."
It was Raj's voice, slightly muffled. Felicity froze, suddenly remembering the bet, the joke, the reason for all of this. For a moment, panic flared in her chest. What would they say? What would everyone say? Sophia placed a steadying hand on her arm.
"Remember, Felicity, fashion is not just about clothes. It's about how the clothes make you feel. How do you feel?"
Felicity took a deep breath, considering the question. "I feel powerful, beautiful, like I could walk into that ballroom and own it."
"Then that is exactly what you will do,"
Sophia said firmly.
"Go. Enjoy your evening. Be Felicity."
With a final nod of gratitude, Felicity opened the door. Raj stood there, his mouth falling open in shock.
"Holy... Danny? Is that you?"
Felicity smiled, finding confidence in his reaction. "Actually, tonight I'm Felicity. Shall we go down? I believe I have an entrance to make." Raj looked at her for a long moment, then offered his arm with a grin.
"Lead the way, Felicity. This I've got to see."
The walk to the ballroom seemed both endless and too short. Felicity could feel her heart pounding beneath the structured bodice of her gown, hear the soft rustle of satin with each step. The silver heels clicked against the marble floor, a rhythmic reminder of her transformation. At the entrance to the ballroom, Raj gave her arm a squeeze. "Ready?" Felicity nodded, drawing herself up to her full height. "Ready." They stepped through the doors, and for a moment, Felicity had the surreal experience of entering a room while conversation faltered and heads turned. She spotted Mark and Pete near the punch bowl, their expressions shifting from anticipation to genuine surprise. "Wow," Pete said as Felicity approached, the midnight blue gown swirling around her ankles. "You actually look amazing." "Did you think I wouldn't?" Felicity replied, finding a teasing confidence she hadn't known she possessed. Mark shook his head, a bemused smile playing on his lips. "Honestly? Yeah, I thought you'd look ridiculous. This was supposed to be a joke, but..." He gestured at her outfit.
"You're putting half the girls here to shame."
Felicity felt a warm glow of satisfaction. "Thank you, I think."
"So, Felicity, huh?"
Pete asked, raising an eyebrow. "Just for tonight," Felicity said, though even as the words left her mouth, she wondered if that was true. The evening unfolded in a series of surprising moments. A senior from the engineering department asked her to dance, apparently not recognizing her. Felicity accepted, allowing herself to be led onto the dance floor. The feeling of being held, being led through the steps, was new and strangely thrilling.
"I don't think I've seen you around campus before,"
the guy said, his hand warm against the small of her back. "I'm usually behind the scenes," Felicity replied, a smile playing on her lips. As the night progressed, Felicity found herself enjoying the attention, the freedom to move and speak differently, the way people looked at her and saw someone new. She danced with several partners, laughed with a group of girls who complimented her dress, and even posed for photos with her bewildered roommates. "I've got to hand it to you," Raj said as they stood on the edge of the dance floor, watching couples sway to a slow song. "You're really committing to this bet. I half expected you to show up in some cheap costume and bail after 10 minutes. Felicity gazed out at the dancing couples, the sparkle of dresses under the lights, the smiling faces. "It stopped being about the bet somewhere along the way," she admitted quietly. Raj looked at her curiously. "What do you mean?" Before Felicity could answer, a tall figure appeared beside them. Professor Thompson from the drama department, resplendent in a classic tuxedo. "I don't believe we've met," he said, extending a hand to Felicity. "I'm Professor Thompson." "Felicity," she replied, taking his hand. "It's a pleasure to meet you."
"Would you care to dance?"
he asked, gesturing toward the floor. Felicity hesitated, glancing at Raj, who nodded encouragingly. "Go ahead. I'll catch up with you later." Professor Thompson led her to the center of the ballroom, his hand respectfully placed on her waist as they began to move to the music.
"You move very well,"
he commented.
"Have you studied dance?"
"No," Felicity said, with a small laugh. "This is all very new to me." "You seem to have a natural grace. Are you perhaps interested in theater? We're always looking for new talent in the drama department." The question caught Felicity off guard. Theater had never been on Danny's radar. He had always been focused on his business classes, on the practical path forward. But something about the idea of performance, of transformation, resonated with her now. "I might be," she heard herself saying. "I'm finding I enjoy becoming someone else." Professor Thompson nodded thoughtfully.
"The best performances come from finding parts of ourselves we didn't know existed. You should come by the department sometime. We're holding auditions for the fall season soon."
The song ended, and Professor Thompson bowed slightly.
"Thank you for the dance, Felicity. I hope to see you at auditions."
As he walked away, Felicity stood still in the middle of the dance floor, processing the unexpected invitation. Around her, couples continued to dance. The music shifted to a more upbeat tempo, and the night wore on. By midnight, the formal was winding down. Felicity's feet ached from the unaccustomed heels, and she had retreated to a quiet corner when Mark found her.
"Ready to head out?"
he asked, loosening his tie. "Pete's about to fall asleep standing up, and Raj is saying his goodbyes to that girl from his biochem class." Felicity nodded, suddenly aware of how tired she was. The evening had been a whirlwind of emotions and new experiences. "I need to go back upstairs first," she said. "To change and gather my things." Mark looked at her for a long moment. "You know, you don't have to change if you don't want to. The bet was just that you had to wear the dress to the formal. You fulfilled that. What you do now is up to you." His words surprised her. "You wouldn't think it was weird if I stayed like this?" Mark shrugged. "It's been weird all night, but in a good way. You seem, I don't know, happy? More comfortable than I've seen you in a long time, which is ironic considering you're wearing heels and a dress." Felicity smiled, touched by his observation. "Thank you for noticing." "So, what'll it be? Danny or Felicity for the ride home?" The question hung in the air, weighted with significance beyond the simple choice of clothing. Felicity thought about the feeling of the satin against her skin, the way the dress moved with her, the surprising confidence she had found in becoming someone new. "Felicity," she said finally. "Definitely Felicity." Back in the hotel suite, Sophia was waiting, packing away her makeup supplies. She looked up as Felicity entered, a knowing smile on her face. "Ah, there you are. How was your evening?" "It was..." Felicity searched for the right word. "Transformative." Sophia nodded, as if this was exactly what she had expected. "And now? Will you be changing back?" Felicity looked down at the midnight blue gown, ran her gloved hands over the beaded neckline. "Actually, I was thinking I might stay like this a bit longer, if that's okay." "Of course it is," Sophia said gently. "The dress is yours. You've paid for it, in more ways than one." Felicity glanced at her curiously. "What do you mean?" "Coming here, facing your fears, allowing yourself to discover this side of yourself, that takes courage. More courage than many people ever show in their lives." "I don't feel brave," Felicity admitted. "I feel found." Sophia's eyes crinkled with warmth. "That, my dear, is the most courage of all." Felicity gathered her things, the makeup Sophia had used, a small silver clutch, the garment bag now empty. As she prepared to leave, she turned to the elderly tailor. "Thank you, Sophia, for everything." Sophia waved away her gratitude. "This is what I do. I help people become who they are meant to be, one stitch at a time." Downstairs, Mark, Pete, and Raj were waiting in the hotel lobby. Their expressions shifted from tiredness to surprise as Felicity approached, still clad in the midnight blue gown. "Still Felicity, huh?" Pete said, but there was no mockery in his tone. "For tonight, at least," Felicity replied, though in her heart she was beginning to wonder if it might be for longer than that. The drive back to campus was quiet, the four of them lost in their own thoughts. When they arrived at their dorm building, Raj offered Felicity his arm to help her navigate the stairs in her heels. Inside their shared suite, they gathered in the common area, an unspoken need to process the evening hanging in the air.
"So,"
Mark said, collapsing onto the couch. "That didn't go how any of us expected." "No kidding," Pete agreed, yawning. "I thought we'd have a good laugh, maybe take some embarrassing photos. Instead, Danny turned into..." He gestured at Felicity.
"This whole other person."
"Not other," Felicity said quietly. "Just more complete." The three guys looked at her, really looked at her, taking in the midnight blue gown, the carefully styled blonde hair, the subtle makeup that enhanced rather than masked her features.
"You're serious, aren't you?"
Raj asked.
"This isn't just about the bet anymore."
Felicity took a deep breath. "I don't know what it's about, exactly. I just know that when I put on this dress, when I became Felicity, something clicked into place, something that had been missing." There was a moment of silence as her words sank in.
"So, what happens now?"
Mark asked, finally. Felicity smiled, a mix of nervousness and determination in her expression. "I'm not entirely sure, but I think I'd like to find out." Later that night, after her roommates had retired to their rooms, Felicity stood alone in front of the bathroom mirror. She'd removed the makeup, but still wore the midnight blue gown, unwilling to part with it just yet. In the quiet of the night, she made a silent promise to herself to explore this newfound part of her identity, to see where Felicity might lead her. The journey had begun with a lost bet, but it was continuing by choice now. As she finally slipped out of the dress, carefully hanging it in her closet alongside button-up shirts and jeans, Felicity knew that this was just the beginning. The midnight blue satin caught the moonlight streaming through the window, a reminder of transformation, of possibility. Tomorrow would bring questions, decisions, perhaps even challenges. But tonight, wrapped in the lingering sensation of satin against skin, in the memory of moving confidently through the ballroom, Felicity felt ready to face whatever came next. The bet was over. The discovery had just begun.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!